Welcome to the Deep Dive. This week, well, we're looking at something pretty significant happening in global diplomacy. It's this recent wave of recognition for the state of Palestine. Seeing countries like Portugal, Belgium, Luxembourg, but also potentially France, the UK, Canada, signaling they might move that way too. So our mission today, it's pretty straightforward, really. We want to unpack what this diplomatic shift actually means. Like, what's the real impact on the war? And maybe more fundamentally, how does Palestine even stack up against the legal definition of a state, given the facts on the ground?
Yeah, and it's crucial to immediately put this in context. Israel's reaction was, well, swift and very critical. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office didn't mince words. They called it an absurd prize for terrorism. That tells you right away how charged this whole thing is.
Right, that definitely sets the scene. But okay, let's try and move beyond the political statements for a second. When you look at the actual mechanics of the conflict, does this recognition wave really change anything on the ground in Gaza immediately, I mean?
Honestly, if we're objective, the immediate impact on the fighting itself, it's minimal, for now, anyway. We are seeing some European states, like the UK, starting to review or maybe restrict some export licenses, arms sales, gradual steps. But, and this is the big but, the main pipeline of military support to Israel, that's still flowing strong. Just look at the U.S. still unconditional support. There's something like, what, $6.4 billion in weapons sales pending right now. And then you have Germany, Israel's second biggest supplier. Our sources indicate that Washington and Berlin together account for over 90% of Israel's defense imports.
Wow, 90%.
Yeah. So while diplomatic wins might be shifting a bit in Europe, the actual hardware, the military capacity, that's not really being choked off.
Okay, that 90% figure really puts the limits of this diplomatic recognition into sharp focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if it's not stopping the weapons flow, where's the real value here? Let's use that legal checklist, the Montevideo Convention from 1933, territory, population, government, capacity for foreign relations. How does Palestine measure up today?
Right, the Montevideo criteria. Well, we need to look at let's say, the sobering reality for each of those physical pillars. First, territory. The fact is, Israel practically occupies, well, essentially 100% of the territories we're talking about. West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza. You even had that comment from the Israeli finance minister calling Gaza a potential real estate bonanza that sort of signals an intent for, long-term control.
Okay, so if territory is effectively controlled by another power, what about the second pillar, population?
Yeah.
How does that hold up in the middle of this war?
It's incredibly fragile. When you talk about the population, I mean, there are very serious reports out there. The UN Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory used language like potential genocidal intent to destroy the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The numbers are debated, of course, but conservative estimates we've seen suggest maybe 10% of Gaza's population killed or injured. The total death toll estimates go way past 65,000, so that pillar is under direct severe threat.
And the third one, government.
Government, right. So the Palestinian Authority, the PA, they have de jure authority, like on paper, in some specific limited areas, pockets, really. But the de facto control, the day-to-day reality, that's Israel. Plus, this recognition is happening alongside international calls for the PA to reform, for Hamas to disarm. Hamas has rejected that. So true independent government function under occupation, it's almost impossible.
Okay, so if territory, population, even effective government are, well, severely compromised, what's the actual practical benefit of getting this recognition? Where's the leverage?
And that brings us to the core point, really. The main benefit, the key takeaway, is strengthening that fourth pillar, the capacity to conduct interstate relations. Recognition fundamentally shifts the PA status. They go from being sort of petitioners to a recognized state actor, at least in the eyes of these recognizing countries. It gives them better tools, better standing internationally to lobby for an end to the conflict. It moves the conversation slightly away from being totally dependent on just Israel and the U.S.
Right, that makes sense. It's less about changing the battlefield tomorrow and more about changing the negotiating table, giving them a different kind of platform. So diplomatic recognition is a lobbying tool, a potentially powerful one, but clearly not enough on its own to alter the war's trajectory, especially with that 90% military support figure you mentioned still in place.
Exactly. And if we zoom out just for a second, look at the bigger picture, there's a historical pattern here. Often, when international support for Palestine increases, Israel's response has been to, well, double down. More military action, more facts on the ground, expanding the occupation. Netanyahu himself has talked about how he personally worked for years to prevent a Palestinian state. So it leads to this critical question, really, for you listening. Does Israel's creation of these irreversible facts on the ground, this fait accompli, Does that just keep growing day by day, potentially making a future Palestinian state, practically impossible, no matter how many countries offer diplomatic recognition?
That's definitely a powerful thought to carry forward.